Adam, your season review.
Okay, well, so I think that I'm glad to have the opportunity to say some of these things on a show like this, John, because I feel like me and you have tried to have this conversation on post-match shows in the loudest place in the whole world after I've had 5 pints on a few times. But it is going to be...
who am I, some sort of blurt who hasn't had 5 pints?
But yeah, so at least we'll be able to hear each other now. It's kind of about Slot, I suppose. So, but like this time last year, I had to look back. It was May the 20th that he was kind of appointed. I was reading tweets from that day, and I don't think there's been a manager since, I don't know, Evans maybe, that I'd heard kind of less about, and I was pretty young when Evans was made manager. So it was a new experience because I wasn't particularly aware of him at all, really, and so I thought that it was a really interesting period to think back to it, because it was quite quiet, and after Jurgen it was so bizarre to have somebody who first of all came in and didn't say anything. There was no press conference for a month or something, and I think the club was having a breath. It was really interesting, and I sort of can't remember that happening before. But in the meantime, of course, we were obsessively sort of researching about him and hearing, there was things that.
Do you know Gutman was fuming?
Well, I can imagine.
Absolutely fuming.
Where
the fuck is this prick?
Yeah, I mean. Yeah. Far be it from him to overreact to something. But yeah, I mean, I really liked the idea of his fitness record. I kind of wasn't sure about the more Pep Guardiola thing. There was a lot of talk about how he loves Pep Guardiola and he's like a Guardiola disciple, which I've never really been, in terms of kind of his style of play. But you could kind of see bits there where you were like, okay, well, if there's parts of that you can kind of impart, and there's parts of it that you can sort of bring in, you can kind of see how it worked. And then, once he does start talking, I wasn't sure, because one of the things for me was that he kept talking about Feyenoord. And I was a bit like, I hope he's not doing that with the players. I hope he's not just sort of saying, I can't even think of any Feyenoord players. You're talking to Virgil about some lad who plays like centre-half for Feyenoord, because Virgil might think he's a bit of a wally.
Like that Moyes thing.
Yeah, exactly. Telling Rio Ferdinand what Phil Jagielka does. So yeah, there was kind of part of that for me, but like, jumping forward, I think that I really like the fact that he was just calmly imparting his personality on everybody, and after such a big personality of Jurgen, the way he did that, and I assume the way he's kind of done that with the players, there's lots more happening behind the scenes. I think just the way he's kept a lid on the season and kept a control over things is something which I've never seen a Liverpool head coach or manager managed to do. My other worry was that he'd kind of be crushed by it all. How somebody coming from a much sort of less big club, and knowing the kind of nonsense that there is around Liverpool, things about the refs and the media and all that sort of stuff that does my head in. I was concerned that somebody that wasn't that big personality wouldn't cope. I always, until this season, I've always thought Liverpool needs a big personality. Liverpool needs that to kind of lead us through. So yeah, on the other side of things, I thought there is a chance. There is a chance that he could be a better manager. That he could be a better manager for us right now, as Mo said before. I don't think there's any chance he's going to be as big a personality, but I did feel that there was some bits there that could be fixed by the right person, and I liked the way he said that himself. He said, "I'm not going to be." He was like the Prime Minister, wasn't he, Klopp? He was like everything, and I think what Slot was saying was, you don't need that. Do you kind of all get that you don't need the kind of all pervading kind of God figure telling everybody kind of like how to live their lives? Because Slot was saying, I'm not going to be doing that, but we might win some games. I liked that a lot, that sort of grew the more time went on. But yeah, in terms of the quick win type things, this is the really key thing, because I thought back then that there was a world where he could change minimal things and we'd end up with more points, or as Mo was saying, not less points. So like, if you think back to like the season before this one, conceding silly early goals, kind of one person defending. I thought we could defend better as a team. The Trent thing, which had become huge, really. If you kind of think, he's poured so much good cold water on that, as Mo said. But it was a huge thing that kind of went from us to the England team, and it was a national conversation where he was going to play. And one of the first tweets that was out when Slot became manager was it mentioned that his main goal is going to be getting Núñez playing in, because we were going to be backing Núñez. Do you remember this? Paul Joyce tweeted it. It was quite bizarre, really, and I think it must have been because there was a lot of rumour around about Núñez going. So I felt the Núñez thing. I felt and feel that the Núñez thing was quite key. And I don't want to dig him out personally, but I did feel that was kind of a key thing that had hampered the season before. And as I say, I had it on my list of things that you could tweak and improve. The other things were kind of like being a little bit less nice as a club, which I still feel like we could maybe work on a little bit, and I reckon that's what he's got in his pocket coming up. But yeah, so sort of the bits that I didn't see coming, so they were things that he's that I think largely he's done. And I'll talk about some of the games in a sec. But the things that I didn't see coming was no Elliott, basically. Elliott not starting any games at all. And the huge one is Gravenberch. There's a few people that can say they picked that one. I watched the Ipswich game and a couple of the other ones to start with and thought, that's working. I'm a bit worried about what happens 5 games in, though. That was my thought about it, was that he was going to be data fellas were going to get hold of it, spot the kind of lightweight element that I saw in his game from previously, and I thought, this is fine, it won't last. That was kind of my feeling about the Gravenberch thing, that it was going to come unstuck after 5 or 6 games. As I say, the huge thing with Gakpo, and I've mentioned Gakpo now because that's kind of how I see it, is that Klopp had a emotional and a proud attachment a little bit to the Núñez signing, and Gakpo was the one who kind of bore the brunt of that in terms of being shunted around, not necessarily moved out of the team, but shunted around, not in his favourite position in the season before this one. And I thought his form was really impacted to the state which he looked like he was kind of having a kind of crisis, basically of confidence, and he couldn't then do what he needed to do when called on. Whereas Núñez was really backed, and for one reason or another, his collapse in form was mirrored Liverpool's collapse in form in the season before this one. So in the summer, that last summer, I was thinking, I don't hate him, but I would quite like us to sell Núñez, because I can just kind of see that happening again. I couldn't think my way around it not being kind of inevitable that he'd have to play a lot of games, and that sort of same thing would keep happening. As I say, without being too personally critical about him. And Slot's just sort of done the opposite. He's backed Gakpo, put Gakpo back into his favourite position on the left, and pushed Núñez down the pecking order for the benefit of the team.